We are here for the Week 1 press conference for North Texas with defensive coordinator, inside linebacker coach Peter Sirmon. We'll go ahead and start with questions, and as usual, if you have a question, go ahead and send that to the chat, and we'll call on you from there. And we'll start with Jeff Ferrato. Go ahead, Jeff.
Peter, good morning.
Good afternoon. Good morning.
Can you tell us what you expect from the North Texas offense based on what you know of familiarity with their coach when he was at WSU, and also anything that Mike Blesh has been able to share with you guys?
Well, we expect them to be a very well-coached team. I know they were a very well-coached team, gave us a lot of issues at Washington State. I believe their skill players are going to be really talented on the perimeter. I think they have a lot of depth at the running back position. So we're expecting a really, really tough battle, our defense versus their offense. Talked to Coach Blesh a little bit, but what's really unique now with looking at these depth charts is the way we do our depth charts. We take photographs of where the guys were the last year, and the compilation of the photographs. They're not all wearing the same, either the same button down or the same color tie anymore. And I guess what I'm alluding to is they're coming from all different schools. So if Mike wasn't there with them, there's not a lot of information he can share.
Thanks.
Next, we'll go to Steve Kroner from the SF Chronicle.
Yeah, Peter, I think it's fair to say the numbers pointed out that the 3 full seasons before last season, your defense, I did the numbers, it was averaging like 21, giving up 21 points and about 360 yards or so. And then last year it got bumped up to about 27, 28 points and 430 yards. Now, part of that obviously was how good so many offenses in the Pac-12 were, but I think part of it might have been a little bit of a regression on the Cal defense. How do you get back to that stretch where you guys were, if not the best defense in the Pac-12, certainly one of the best?
A lot of those yards, if you've been with us last year, was a lot of explosive pass plays, and those are what I refer to as we issues. It's not a DB issue, it's not a linebacker issue, it's not a D-line issue. It's everybody collectively playing pass defense together. The ball will continually get pushed down the field in our conference. We're playing against very talented wide receivers that can break tackles, but the number one thing that can minimize the points per, the overall yards, and a point of emphasis we're talking about this year is just yards per play. That's going to be trying to minimize those explosive pass plays. And that's, I think with Trey and Terrence, we've taken a significant amount of time and effort to attract and find guys that we think can help us play the ball in the air. And you'll see some new guys back there that have earned starting positions, and we think that's a big step on being more competitive in those situations in the conference.
All right, we'll go to Thomas Dunn now.
Good morning, Peter. So North Texas named Stone Earl as their starting quarterback. I was curious what your first impressions are of him, and how much, when going into scouting, how much can you take his 2021 Abilene Christian season at face value for the player that he is now?
I think you can look at his tools, and you never know what they're asking them to do offensively, or what they're, how they manage the game, within how they call the game. But you look at some of the tools, and I think he's a more than effective runner. And, to be in that system, I think the Chandler Rogers kids has an opportunity to play as well. He's another skilled player back there. So he must have had a really great spring and fall camp. They, kind of talk about the skill guys. I think they have good skill back there. And, if he earned that spot, I expect him to come out and play really well, and it's going to be a heck of a game.
All right, next we'll go to Jake Curtis from the Cal Sports Report.
Given the heat, do you expect to play more players than you normally would?
I think we'll kind of feel that out. Right now, we're scheduled to play a lot. I mean, it really wouldn't matter right now, in my opinion, if we're going to play in 72 degrees or whatever the temperature is going to be down there. We've taken a lot of time and developed a lot of guys with the reps, especially in the front 7 of our defense. So we expect those guys to play a lot. Based on how the game goes, we'll see how many plays on defense we have. How long we're out there for drives. The longer the drive is, obviously, the more people you'll see shuttle through. But we're expecting to take a full plane load of guys, and if they're going on that plane, we think they can help us, and if they've earned their opportunity, they'll get in the game this Saturday.
And Matt Moreno from Rivals will lead you for the next question.
Kind of on that note, Coach talked about chemistry and kind of building that early in the season. How important is it going to be for you to kind of see which combinations work and who maybe works well together in this first game?
I think a lot of that is based on what I've already seen. I don't, I'm not probably a real believer on, these two guys have to play together or these guys complement each other well. The techniques, the skills, we need to be interchangeable, because I'm not, I wish I was. I'm not smart enough to call the game based on the Rubik's Cube of the 11-man combination out there. So the guys that are asking to play the techniques, they have to go in there and execute. I got to give them as good a calls as I can, and then ultimately this game is about the players making the plays when the opportunities present themselves.
Any other questions for Coach Sirmon? And we'll go back to Thomas Dunn.
So you mentioned like all the perimeter skill position players. You mentioned how good the quarterbacks are in terms of athleticism. How hard will it be to stay in like one containment for the game plan?
I don't think you can. These styles of offense, you manage the offense. It's there's not a lot of containment. It's how you manage the explosive plays. It's how you kind of structure what you want to do in some coverage situations. But you talk to offensive coaches. A lot of guys they really don't care what we do on defense. They feel they have formational answers. They feel they have route combinations. They can snap routes off. They can modify their routes. They can run to run. They can run to RPO. It can be a pass to pass. So I think the spacing in which you give them and how you technique it is a big part of it. But they have answers. I mean, these guys have formations that can you can throw the ball on the perimeter. You can take a single shot to X and you can run the ball. So there's a lot made about how there's not a lot of plays I've heard in these offenses, but the amount of variables within the plays, that's where the numbers and the volume grows, in my opinion.
Thank you.
We'll go back to Jeff Ferrato from Cal Sports Report. I think you're muted there, Jeff.
My apologies. Can you give us a sense of how Brent Johnson has evolved through fall camp and where he's at right now, and in terms of his readiness for a game?
Brett's worked really hard for the last 2 years, as everyone on this call is aware of. We're excited for Brett to get back on the field and the opportunity. A lot of that will probably be dictated by the tempo of the game, how he feels, the combination of and the communication with him and Coach Browning. So there's a lot of unknowns. We feel really good about Brett being able to be someone that can help us this season. And up to that point, it's going to be how he's communicating with AB and what he feels, and as we bring him along on what his volume, what his capacity is going to be, and that might increase or decrease week to week based on how he feels and how the season's going for him.
So some of that you really don't know yet, it sounds like.
We feel good with where he's at, but really, Jeff, without knowing the situation, knowing are we fixing to play 80 plays, are we fixing to play 95 plays? Is it a tempo type of day? Is it there's so many unknowns on how a game's going to really reveal itself that it's hard for me to say what the rep counts are going to look like, especially in those interior positions.
Any last questions for Coach Sirmon today? All right, Coach, that'll wrap it up.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.